I may have done a little foreshadowing. Hey, what is poppin' fellas? It's Mav, and today is the day that I review my favorite zombie game of all time, the original Dead Rising. This game is 17 years old, and I must say that many of the mechanics and features that are in this game were truly ahead of its time. Countless games today still don't have what Dead Rising has to offer. I want to take an in-depth look at this game and give my honest opinion on it to determine if it truly holds up nowadays. If you've never played this game, then buckle up, because this game is truly the balance of story, gameplay, and bullshittery. Grab your morning coffee and enjoy this spoiler-free review. Without further ado, let's get started. Perfect. Kicking this review off with the gameplay, Dead Rising puts Frank West, a freelance photojournalist, in a zombie-infested Willamette mall. You are free to go inside every single open store that this mall has to offer, and explore various other locations. You want to wear a dress with no shoes? You could do that. You want to wear a drippy-ass suit? Yeah. Kids' clothes that definitely don't fit Frank? Yep. You can wear a variety of outfits in just about any store, as well as being able to unlock various new outfits. What's even funnier is that whatever you're wearing in-game will show up in the cutscenes. Not bad for 2006, huh? As for the weapons, well, you could use a skateboard, a toy sword, guns, chainsaws, lawn equipment, toys. Heck, you could throw just about anything at zombies. Dead Rising is truly the epitome of bringing a katana with some orange juice to a gunfight. You control Frank West in third person, and when you're first able to explore the mall, you're open to slay the endless onslaught of zombies in any way you see fit, while trying to follow the current objective the story has laid out for you. Before you're open to explore the mall's entirety, you're introduced to the mall's security room. Here you can save the game, rescue survivors, and change to certain outfits. Yeah. This is the first place you'll discover and the safest place to be in the mall. This game has RPG elements, as you start out at level 1 and max out at level 50. At the start of the game, Frank is slow as molasses, and with very little health, item slots, or skills. It'll truly feel risky to traverse the mall at the beginning of the game, and you need to be careful in order to survive. As you rescue survivors and take pictures, you will gain PP, which stands for Prestige Points. It's pretty much this game's version of EXP. When you gain enough experience, Frank West will slowly become a zombie killing machine. As you progress through the game, you'll find survivors in various locations, and they give a ton of experience if you escort them back to the security room. Since the story mode is called 72-hour mode, you are subjected to a time limit, so you'll need to manage your time and save as many survivors as possible while prioritizing the main quest. Once you finish that, you'll eventually unlock the overtime mode, which is an extension of the main game's story. 72 hours in Dead Rising is around 6 hours total. This game on average shouldn't take a crazy amount of time. If I had to guess, it'd probably be around 12 hours long, which isn't crazy. Plus, you'll unlock the infinite mode after, which will allow you to journey through Willamette and try to survive as long as you can while having the ability to explore the mall with no time constraints, but I'll get to that later. While playing the main story though, Otis will call Frank and notify him of any survivors that need to be rescued. Frank will get countless calls from him throughout the game, and it's a huge pain in the ass because during calls he is utterly defenseless. The only thing you can do is attempt to flee zombies as they try and end your call and eat you for lunch. And guess what happens when you're attacked mid-call? The call ends and Otis will immediately call you back and nag at you for being rude. Oh, I'm so sorry. I was getting eaten alive by zombies, you jackass. Getting calls can definitely be annoying if you're doing something like fighting a boss. If they altered the call system to where you can defend yourself somehow and not have to worry about being a moving target, I wouldn't mind this mechanic, but I can understand why they designed it this way, as Frank needs to hold the phone up to his ear somehow. Also, by checking the watch, you could track quests and check the time limits of said quests. After Otis notifies you of any survivor, a survivor tracker will appear and you could track it through the watch. The arrow that appears when you track the quest will lead you to wherever you need to go, be it main story or survivor. Furthermore, the game clearly wants to give players an incentive to use anything and everything at their disposal. For example, the gunplay in this game is definitely not ideal. When aiming, Frank West will stop in his tracks, and if you're hip firing, good luck hitting all your shots on target, if you're not using the shotgun or mega buster. The ammo for basic guns are extremely limited, which brings us to durability. The items you find and pick up on the field will eventually break after using them for a while. A way to help remedy weapon durability though, is to gather books at the bookstores. Books could do a variety of things, such as increasing weapon durability, having healing items heal more, getting more EXP from taking pictures, and the list goes on. Some books can also stack on top of each other. For example, I could stack 3 books to increase the durability of this weapon here I got from one of the bosses. Now it'll last 3 times cubed, as long as it would have without any books. So yeah, pretty overpowered. Another thing I want to mention is alongside survivors, there will be various psychopaths in the game. They basically are the bosses you fight. Some of them are more messed up than others, Steven being my absolute favorite.
Clean up! Register 6!
When you defeat them, you also get to use their weapons. Now, would I say this style of gameplay is for everyone? No, definitely not. I feel like Dead Rising was made for people that can appreciate this interesting hybrid of a game that's accompanied by a little difficulty. When I first played this game as a kid back in the day, I died so many times. And I was pretty clueless at times on what I was meant to be doing. So I never really finished the entire game until years later. I wouldn't say this game is unforgivable, but it's definitely challenging enough if you're unfamiliar with everything the mall has to offer. But it's truly a one-of-a-kind experience, and that's what made me come back and finish the game. One thing that makes this game a pain in the butt is rescuing the survivors. I have seen goldfish with better attention spans than these brain-dead baboons that are considered human beings. If you try to get them to follow you, they'll run headfirst into zombies and are walking targets. You can give them weapons to fight zombies with, and food to replenish their HP, but trust me, they can't fend for themselves very well, so I wouldn't rely on letting them pull their own weight. Instead of telling survivors to follow you, you should simply command them to go to a certain location, in which they'll simply run straight to it for the most part. Another thing, there are multiple types of survivors aside from the ones that follow you. Some require you to carry them or lead them by holding their hand. The game will only allow you to have 8 survivors at once, but trust me, I lost brain cells just handling 3 or 4. So if you can handle 8, then you must be some kind of god. Now I will cut this game a lot of slack as it's really old, and at the very least, these AI function to an extent. Speaking of AI, another AI I should talk about are the zombies and psychopaths. Taking into account having an immense amount of zombies in a single room, with all of them able to attack you effectively, is extremely impressive. I must say I have no complaints for how the zombies operate, nor do I have any complaints for the psychopaths themselves. They all function correctly. It's only really the survivors that have this problem. But let's take a step back. So I said earlier that the main story is on a time limit. Now if you fail the main story, you could continue playing until the 72 hours are over and get a bad ending, or you could reset the game. Your levels will in fact carry over to a new game, so at least you're covered there. It's also not like you can only reset the game by getting an ending or failing the main story. You could restart the game whenever you feel like it, and have your levels as well as clothes and unlockables if you don't want to miss out on survivors or whatever the reason may be. Trust me, you should keep this in mind, as I myself have failed the main story multiple times, and going back and completing the story just feels so rewarding. One last thing I should mention before talking about the infinite mode is that there are 6 different endings in Dead Rising, and depending on if you solve the main case, rescue enough survivors, and make it to the helipad after 72 hours are up, will determine which ending you get. But the only way to unlock overtime mode is to do everything right, and then completing overtime mode will give you the true ending. In my experience playing, I've only gotten a couple of endings, so I never knew that there were this many. Still, after doing the research and learning that this many endings actually existed, left me impressed. Capcom, you guys seriously outdid yourselves with this game. After getting the true ending, you'll unlock Infinite Mode. In Infinite Mode, the main objective is to keep Frank alive as long as possible. Every 100 seconds, Frank will lose 1 box of health, and you can actually die of starvation. Food and drinks will not respawn, you cannot save your game, and you cannot use your watch or your camera. One last thing is that every single survivor in Psychopath will want you dead, but defeating them will give you items and food. They all spawn at certain times, so unless you look everything up and keep your eyes on some other clock to keep track of time, you'll have to get lucky or learn the times. Playing this mode is quite the challenge, and it's home to 2 of the most difficult achievements you could possibly get in a video game: 5-Day Survivor and 7-Day Survivor. If you want to get both of these achievements, you'll need to run the game for 14 hours straight without dying, and pausing the game will also pause your time. Now this achievement is damn near impossible, especially if you try to get this achievement on an Xbox 360. These old puppies heated up like you couldn't believe. Attempting this achievement on a 360 was a one-way ticket to potentially getting the Red Ring of Death, but now it's more possible. Just what mad lad would spend 14 hours for this? I dread the day I even attempt to get this achievement. But maybe with enough likes and comments, I'll do just that. Anyway, as a mode, I think it's decent, and it provides a challenge, but those achievements are just insanely unforgiving. Before I talk about story, I want to talk about the development of this game. Dead Rising was first released on October 8th, 2006. It was ported to the Wii on February 24th, 2009. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to focus on the original version of the game. But for those that are curious, the Wii port seems to play a lot like Resident Evil 4. Dead Rising did very well in the West, and it clearly set the stage for many sequels. Some good, and some not so good.
Okay. I'm fine.
Back in 2006, Dead Rising was exclusively on the Xbox 360, and at the time, it was one of the most downloaded demos on the store, which is actually how I got introduced to the game. This game was heavily inspired by old zombie films, especially George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead, as that film also featured a zombie-infested mall, which may make some of you question this text right here at the bottom left of the Dead Rising cover. It reads, "This game was not developed, approved, or licensed by the owners or creators of George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead." The reason why that text is on the game's cover is because this phenomenon actually spawned a huge lawsuit between George A. Romero's film owners and Dead Rising, as they claimed that the game copied its work. Luckily, soon after this case was presented to a judge, it was later declared that Dead Rising was not similar enough to the zombie comedy film, though there are many striking similarities. Dead Rising took the typical zombie horror genre that was still relatively new at the time and added personality to it. The characters that are in this game were designed by Keiji Inafune, who is well known for designing Mega Man in many of its titles, as well as Resident Evil 2. He wanted Frank West to look like an average Joe, not overwhelmingly attractive, yet not ugly either, and I like that personally. It makes Frank more relatable. This game has a diverse cast of characters when it comes to design, and it's stuck because this game was definitely a commercial success. It was introduced to Xbox 360's Platinum Hits lineup. Seeing hundreds of zombies on screen at one time back in 2006 was truly breathtaking. Another thing that the developers nailed is the physics as well as how Frank himself can interact with various items and zombies. You could cook a steak, a pizza, you can make various drinks to make smoothies with different effects, and every weapon interacts with zombies in a unique way. Heck, you can literally interact with the bodies too. Frank can pick up zombies, walk on their heads, ground pound, and do a ton of other stuff by the time you're maxed out in levels. Heck, you can even spit on zombies and fight bosses by spitting on them. What a legend. This game didn't need to focus on that much detail to be a good game, but they did, and every time I play I learned something new about this game. I just learned that there was a taser weapon in Dead Rising by throwing a box at the wall and picking up what was inside of it. The developers of this game truly thought of many creative ways to make this game more immersive, and the graphics still look satisfactory compared to other titles that came out at the time, which brings us to the story. The story takes place in 2006. Frank West, a freelance photojournalist, catches wind of a quote-unquote riot going on in the town of Willamette, Colorado. The whole town had just been closed off by the military, and nobody knew of what was truly happening there. But Frank saw this as an opportunity to get a scoop of a lifetime, so he pays a guy to fly him to Willamette. Upon arrival, Frank eventually realizes that there isn't actually a riot going on, but a zombie outbreak, as he witnesses the horrific things going on and are being kept from the rest of the world. The helicopter driver, whose name is Ed if you were wondering, reminds Frank that the hottest place to be is Willamette's shopping mall. So Frank tells Ed to take him to the mall where he is dropped off at the helipad. Frank told Ed to pick him up in 3 days, and just like that, the game begins. Frank was determined to get that scoop of a lifetime and become famous.
Alright, listen. Don't forget to come back for me.
As long as you're not dead, Fred.
It's Frank. Frank West. Remember that name, because the whole world's gonna know it in 3 days.
At the helipad, he meets a mysterious man named Carlito that tells Frank about the town being a living hell before disappearing. During his journey, he meets 2 DHS agents, Jesse and Brad, as well as the mall's maintenance worker I mentioned earlier, Otis. I enjoy these characters a lot, especially Brad. He He's an absolute Giga Chad. It is Frank's duty to uncover the mystery of how zombies appeared at the mall, as well as who the mysterious man at the helipad was, while saving as many survivors as possible. I loved the story of this game. I thought there were plenty of plot twists, and the true ending was absolutely legendary. Don't worry, I won't spoil it. Frank has been in many dangerous situations before going to Willamette because of the thrill it provides him.
You know how to use this?
Kinda. I've covered wars, you know.
But even a zombie-infested mall was not in Frank's job description. If you want to play more and fully experience this game, I highly recommend it, especially because the game is at a fair price. In conclusion, seeing as there were plenty of other successful Dead Rising games, I thought this series would thrive for years to come. But Dead Rising 4 truly stuck the nail in the coffin. It's truly a shame. So much so that it brings a tear to my eye. But maybe one day, Capcom will make this series rise from the ashes and bring back its former glory. This game is extraordinary, and if it had a dedicated sandbox mode and multiplayer, as well as improved survivor AI, I'd absolutely give this game a perfect score. This game still holds up incredibly well. I'm giving Dead Rising 1 a 9.5 out of 10. From the astounding attention to detail, a wonderful mall to explore, the music, story, and helping pioneer the open world scene for gaming, as well as introducing a zombie game that was not only dark, but comedic. This is definitely in my top 10 favorite games of all time, and I have always had a blast playing through it time and time again. Please check this game out. Even if you don't enjoy it, I hope you can appreciate its sheer quality as much as I did. Anyway guys, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please leave your thoughts and recommendations down in the comments and subscribe to my YouTube and Twitch for more content, which can be found in the video description. Thank you all so much for granting me a moment of your time, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out, fellas.